in the day and 60 minutes in each hour, and they're finite. And if we don't approach resources in the same way, making sure we cherish our resources, use them in the most profitable manner in a way that can benefit not only us but the future generations, we will still have huge challenges and we will do an enormous amount of damage. I wanted to start perhaps a few short reflections with an issue that has affected all of us, and the global pandemic. We can see its detrimental impact across society, across the sectors of the economy. We see it globally, and we also see it very well in Kenya. Julian was speaking very much about his experiences of living in the informal settlements, and these are areas that have been profoundly affected by COVID-19, and I'm delighted that we've been able to work with a bit of imagination doing M-Pesa cash transfers to some 80,000 vulnerable individuals on a weekly basis. Now, while the governments around the world will now seek to spend around 10 trillion euro only in the next 2 years to kickstart the economies, I think we have to bear in mind that this money will be borrowed effectively from future generations. Why do I say that? It's not to make a commentary on the IMF. On the contrary, it's what I think is hugely important here. It's critically important that we now make the right investments that will allow us to build back better. And it's in this context that actually I think COVID gives an additional impulse to the circular economy. And what we've been looking to do in the European Union is we've been looking to come with what we're calling a green recovery, a recovery that doesn't undercut the foundations of our sustainable growth, but rather fully supports the objectives in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Paris Climate Agreement, and the biodiversity goals. In other words, when rebuilding our economies, let's not waste money on obsolete and harmful technologies, but let's support greener, carbon neutral and circular solutions. Now, we had one advantage perhaps in the EU, that we'd started this conversation very, very much before the first wave of COVID hit us. When the new European Commission took office in 2019, their overriding priority, I would even say their flagship initiative, was to come up with a growth strategy under the name of the European Green Deal. And what we're looking to achieve is basically three objectives. Number one, we want the European Union, we want Europe to become a climate neutral economy by 2050. Two, we want to cut pollution to protect the humans and the environment. Three, we want to help companies become leaders in clean technologies and products. And four, we want to ensure a fully just transition. We want to work with our partners globally, in particular the development partners, and support them for this transformation, support them for the fantastic opportunities that particularly in an innovative, dynamic country like Kenya exist. Now, what we see is that the Green Deal cuts across a wide range of policies. It's about energy, it's about transport, it's about manufacturing, agriculture and trade. And it's mobilizing everything we've got, from use of regulations, standards, cleverly designed policies, but also fiscal tools, taxation policy. It's about education of young people. It's about research, diplomacy, and last but certainly not least, it's about investments. And we're envisaging on the EU side, a total investment to implement the Green Deal will be around €1 trillion. Now, coming back to where I started, with the Green Deal, the European Union has found itself, to a certain extent, ready with a blueprint for a green recovery plan. Now, what I think COVID means is that we now need to be determined to move even faster, even more decisively, and use the opportunity of large-scale public investments in our future and for our future while we recover from the COVID-19 crisis. And circularity and the role of the circular economy is hugely important in this. I'm not going to go into this in great detail, because I know you're going to do a deep dive on this by the organizer. You've done a deep dive on this, sorry, at the beginning of the webinar, and there'll be the breakout sessions later on. But one of, for us, of the absolute key pillars of the European Green Deal is the Circular Economy Action Plan. For those of you who haven't seen it, and for those of you who are reflecting a tiny bit, what are the kind of actions we could do in Kenya? Have a look at this. I'm not saying it's directly transferable, but it lists 35 actions which all basically aim to make sustainable products the norm in the EU and to ensure less waste, In other words, let's read less resources and money being wasted. And we're looking at a whole series of different areas in the product value chain, from electronics and ICT to batteries and vehicles to packaging to the use of plastics, textiles, the way in which we construct buildings, food, water, nutrients. I think one of the most important features of this action plan is it attempts to empower consumers and public buyers so that they make well-informed choices that will result, I think, as well in an increased durability and recyclability of products. Now, the external dimension, again, plays a huge role here. We have on our side been in intensive discussions with CS Environment, the PS in Environment, CS Minor in her new job and function. And what I think we've jointly realised and jointly promote is the notion that a green transition in a globalised economy will only succeed if it's global, otherwise it won't work. It has the same rationale for the world as it has for the Europeans, both in terms of overcoming the detrimental climate and environmental benefit barriers to ensure the benefits for a broad segment of the population. We need global solidarity, open and fair trade, a rules-based order, multilateralism. All of these are crucial to avoid lapsing into, frankly, what I would describe as rather lazy fossil fuel and resource intensive recovery. Now, what can we do? We're going to try and convince our partners to form a global alliance on circular economy and resource efficiency. On our side as the European Union, we're fully committed to, and we will strive to achieve a global agreement on plastics to stop the plastic pollution and the wasteful approach to plastics. Here, I think the world has an enormous amount it can learn from Kenya. And we will also seek to promote free trade agreements that promote and reflect the objectives of the circular economy. On the development cooperation front, we're currently in the phase of designing our development cooperation for the new budgetary period of the European Union that begins on the 1st of January 2021 to 2027, and we will have this process driven by the Green Deal and the Green Recovery priorities. So this will be a huge priority for us in our cooperation with Kenya moving forward. And I'm really delighted to witness that in our discussions with our partner countries, but in particular Kenya, we've got a really good alignment of our respective priorities. And alongside the green transition, we're wanting to also support digitalization, which can be a driver as well of this green transition. And this resonates as well, really well with the African Green Recovery Stimulus, which is being prepared under AMSEN. We're looking as well to organise a high-level visit of the European Union Commissioner for Environment, and we thank here the Honourable C.S. Tobiko for his standing invitation, because the idea is for the Commissioner to come along with representatives, senior representatives of the EU business community, to discuss with our Kenyan counterparts about the opportunities to strengthen our political alliance, but also our practical alliance at an individual company level to really drive concrete business ties that can promote this. Now, the pandemic has somewhat delayed these plans, but we're hoping that we can have this mission take place in early next year. So a hugely exciting moment. I'm delighted that the Sustainable Inclusive Business, the Knowledge Centre in Kenya, KEPSA, and of course with the support of Team Europe through the Kingdom of Netherlands have launched this conference today, this webinar. It's a great opportunity for us to do everything we can to ensure that also for the future generations there will be a greener, climate-friendly world with a circular economy at the heart of this. Thank you very much.